What's up, guys? This is Felipe from the Noob Trader. And in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is basically continuing sort of like an update from my last video where I was discussing the potential formation of a head and shoulders here on the Bitcoin chart, and just basically continuing to analyze this a bit more now that we've had some more days of price action. Also kind of discuss the things that have been happening with the Fed recently, and this narrative that's really appearing in the crypto space about how the Fed is going to raise interest rates next year 3 times. So therefore, this is very bearish for the crypto market, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kind of address that and just kind of give my thoughts on this and kind of give my ideas on where I see Bitcoin's price, and also maybe a little bit also overall with the market, crypto market, where I kind of see it going over the next few weeks. Okay. The first thing I want to say before I even get started with analyzing this is that long term, I'm still very bullish on crypto and a lot of or certain crypto projects. Okay, so this doesn't change anything. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about is going to be a lot more in kind of like this shorter term time period. Okay, but the reality is that based off what I discussed in the last video and what we've seen since in terms of price action, everything has kind of followed what I was kind of seeing. So we basically got rejected heavily exactly where I drew the circle last time at the range, kind of almost at where the first shoulder here was. And now we've really toppled over, had a few, of those liquidation events that we often see in crypto when people are, leverage long and they get liquidated. And as a result, we have this cascading effect where now we have actually reached this 41,000 previous, resistance range, very strong previous resistance range, and also previous support range. Okay, so this is really a very, very key area to see what's going to happen kind of over the coming days in terms of price. Now, if this was an actual head and shoulders based on what we were talking about before, we would suspect that we would actually kind of get a bounce here and then get rejected at the shoulder again, because you could say that this wasn't technically the actual second shoulder here. We kind of had a slight rebound, but then continue going down. You could say that we're probably going to have a kind of a bounce back over the coming days, get rejected here again, almost form like a mini double top here, and then topple over before meeting the 41K range and probably falling through it. That's probably what would happen in a very classic head and shoulders pattern. Of course, the one thing about technical patterns, guys, especially if you're a beginner in the space and you're watching this video as a beginner, is that you can't rely on, hoping for technical patterns to form, right? Technical patterns are more just something that you can see, but it's more of a reflection of what's the overall sentiment in the market, right? So don't just try and make bets based on the fact like, oh, a head and shoulders may form here, so therefore I'm going to open a short right at 51,000. No, that's not really what you should be doing. Rather, this should just kind of the technical pattern should really be, emphasizing your overall fundamental analysis in the market, right? Some people would also argue that the head and shoulders actually has already been broken, because you could argue that this is the actual head and shoulders trend line, so this slight upward trend line, and that we've broken over, so therefore we're just going to roll over more. Um, Very hard to say right now. I feel as though that the 41K support range, I've seen a lot of other people talk about this, that we're going to simply roll over from this support range here, but I think it's a very, very strong support range just based off the chart alone. So I personally think we're going to bounce back towards the $50,000 price range, $51 price range before we, topple over again. Of course, unless something happens in the market, but um, it depends. We may just continue rolling over, and maybe this line here was the actual, shoulder line. So let's see how it goes. The point is that overall, right now, the market is, as discussed in the video before, this head and shoulders pattern is kind of reflecting just the overall market, which is not looking great, especially for Bitcoin. It is pretty surprising how well some alts have been holding their value, but when you really look at even those alts that are doing really well, like Luna or AVAX and all these types of things, you see that a lot of the capital is moving between those few assets which are performing really, really well. So people who are making profits on Luna sell their profits and move it into another L1, right? L1s are really or layer one solutions right now are the real big thing in crypto at the moment, right? So people are just taking their profits and moving it around, but there's no real new volume or new, there's no new people basically coming and investing in the space at the moment. I feel like it's a lot of existing money, right? People taking profits and moving them over and over and over and over. And that's just kind of creating this effect where, yes, some of these altcoins are holding their value pretty well, but I don't think that can last forever. I mean, you can just feel that the overall momentum in the market's really waning. I mean, just look at volume overall. It's not really there, right? Then on top of that, over this past week, right, especially as gold traders, or as gold investors and people who analyze gold a lot, I always laugh when people in crypto start bringing up, fundamental analysis based off the Fed and all these things, or economics. But all of a sudden, this narrative has really started emerging that, um, the crypto market's getting extremely dangerous and risky because of all the interest rate hikes that are proposed in 2022, which, come on, guys, if we followed the gold market, we've known about this for fucking months, right? So it's just totally ridiculous. But I think the point here is that, you know, the narratives now that are coming out, right, about Bitcoin with this price action, about the whole space. This narrative about the Fed interest rate hikes, and that now, like, people who are investing in very, very risky assets are going to start getting fucked. Crypto is a space that drives off narrative, and this goes both in the negative, from a negative standpoint, and a positive standpoint. Okay, so when things are going really well, there'll be these positive bias narratives that really push the space further, that convince a lot more people to come into the space, right, to start investing their money, and vice versa. Sometimes during negative downturns, right, in price, you'll get these narratives which are like total bullshit, right? I mean, let's be real. The Fed interest rate thing is just total bullshit because it's been used forever, right? But when people start running with narratives into space, the way that crypto works through social media and everything, and the way that all these different, all the communities that interact with each other, it really does start to create this kind of sell-off, right? And sort of a negative viewpoint for people on the crypto space. And that's what I really all think it is. I all think that it is. In fact, that if people are really believing that, all of this negative price action is really a result of, that interest rates are coming, I do think that this could be a situation where people are really, kind of like the opposite, the expression buying the hype and selling the news. Well, this is people selling the news and then maybe, or selling the hype and then buying the news potentially later down when prices actually get to a level which starts becoming much more interesting again in terms of demand. Okay. But I think the reality is that we all know that the this concept that the Fed is going to raise interest rates is just a bullshit narrative, right? If you really do any sort of analysis, you realize that the type of interest rate hikes that the Fed are looking at are very minimal. There's very little chance that the first interest rate hike is going to lead to like a over 1% hike. What they were even talking about in the last FOMC minutes, right, that just came out on Wednesday, I believe, which is what initially kind of where you saw a lot of the negative price action in the stock market and crypto markets and gold when that that data release came out. When you actually look at it, you see that what they're talking about is a fucking 0.25% interest rate hike, the first one, and they don't even give a specific date yet. Okay, as gold analysts, we also know that Powell, the way that he is, the way that he operates, he won't do something which is going to completely fuck over the market. And of course, Powell doesn't give a shit about the crypto market, but he does give a shit about a lot of other markets, the stock market, et cetera, right? So we have to keep that in mind, okay? You, this this potential of the interest rates causing Bitcoin to go back down to like, $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, just something ridiculous in the space of a couple of weeks, is this narrative is stupid. Okay, we know this. Okay, but what we do have to take seriously is that if there's clearly declining momentum in the market, okay, then probably price is going to pull back a bit. And this is also what the crypto market probably needs, right? I mean, how many bullshit projects are there still in the space? How many projects just still have very, very little actual usage? Okay, so last point that I really want to say here is that if you're a person who's invested in the space and now you're getting worried about this negative price action, these are the times when you have to really reinforce the fact that if you're going to so-called hodl any coins, you better be very, very fucking confident in the actual usage that the project has, the actual product that the project is producing, you know? Don't just buy and sell coins based off hype and the expectation of profits, because ultimately, either one, you're going to have to be paying attention to the market all the time, and two, most likely, especially if you're a beginner or just an intermediate person like myself, you're gonna get really, really fucked. Okay, so this is kind of like a lesson here. Um, do I think that we're going to see a complete capitulation down towards lower levels than the 30,000 mark here? I really don't think so still. I think the reality is that now we've probably hit a price range where pulling back even towards back to the 20,000 level feels a little unlikely to me, just purely from optics alone. But we'll have to see how it goes. We'll just really have to continue to see how momentum continues to look in the market, right? And to see what kind of other narratives start emerging, and if really more and more negative narratives start emerging. Who knows what's going to come, right? But the reality is again, fundamentals, right? Fundamental narratives do drive this space. Okay, so we'll have to be paying attention to those. But in the shorter term, I do still see Bitcoin probably breaking below this 41K range and probably retesting this previous 34 super choppy price action area here of like 30, 34, 35K price range. I see that as likely, just because, again, the momentum's not there. But let's see what happens. We'll know for sure in the coming days. Let's see what kind of bounce we get here. It's very important to analyze the price action over the coming few days, and then we can kind of take it from there. I have a lot more thoughts on this whole topic, but I think I'm going to leave the video here because I've already been rambling now for 12 minutes, and there's no real structure to what the fuck I'm saying. It's just kind of all over the place. But also, I'm stuck in quarantine right now, so that always makes you go a little crazy. But let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'll gladly answer. Um, After or tomorrow or on Sunday, I hope to do a video on gold as well, which I haven't done in a while. We have the NFP data coming out later today. People, it's really strange. I don't know why people seem to think that the NFP is going to be, more on the positive side. Um, Again, I haven't seen any reason to believe that it's going to be on the positive side as of now, but let's see what happens. I'll do a video on it, kind of get my thoughts on it, on gold over this weekend. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Talk later.